You shouldn't swear like that.
You swore.
I did not right there.
Ever since this Watergate thing, it's GD this and GD that.
That ain't swearing needed, GD. The first word there is God, ain't it? How can that be a swear word, the most popular word in the Bible? The second word, that's damn, that's a perfectly good word. In the Bible, you read where some guy is damned for cheating or stealing or committing incest in the family. Who else? God. God damned him. Idiot. Beautiful words right out of the holy book. Don't tell me.
I don't understand you sometimes. All I'm trying to do is make a better life for all of us.
James, is it worth it leaving your family for a whole year? Do we live that bad?
Well, let's face it, Florida, we don't live that good. I mean, we are poor. And if you was to make a list of all the things that people want to be, poor would be right down at the bottom of the list. Just about sick and dead.
Everybody on your show has been so wonderful.
Oh, they're nice people.
In making this trip, because I was a little nervous, you know.
Well, you are just going to find that people in show business are as nice and warm and sweet in their own way as the folks back home.
And also you have that wonderful producer, Mr. Tanner Schwartz. And, you know, I was talking to the makeup man, and he says to me, I was, you know, he said, they's all Jewish. I just couldn't believe that his was the people that what killed our Lord, you know.
No, ma'am. I found this lint ball on one of the guest towels. I'm sorry to have to have done that, Charlotte, but we have discussed this problem dozens of times, and it just doesn't seem to sink in. It will now, ma'am.
We've been doing about 2 years of research involving the carcinogenic properties of various synthetic fabrics.
Well, we have a lot of laymen here tonight, and for sure. And what is that exactly in layman's terms?
Well, very simply stated, it means that leisure suits cause cancer.
So how did you get all this phenomenal information?
We did exhaustive research involving thousands of laboratory rats. We dressed them in these tiny lesions.
If we have a problem, why can't we just talk it through, like Tom and Helen? They don't fight.
They don't fight because they're scared to fight.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know damn well what it means. If you two ever really started going to one another, inside of 5 minutes, he'd be calling you.
Don't say nigga.
Now, you listen to me. We've had lots of fights, and it's never happened.
Oh, and don't tell me it never crossed your mind.
No more than it ever crossed my mind to say the word hunky to Tom.
Well, how can you say this?
You know, I've been thinking, there is no earthly reason for you to go through with this at your age. You know it, I know it, Walter knows it.
I don't want you to talk, just stop talking about it.
I didn't say anything, but now that you mention it, it's legal in New York now, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is, Walter. Mother, I don't understand your hesitancy. When they made it a law, you were for it.
Of course, I wasn't pregnant then.
She's a statue of Miss Liberty. She's my
Oh, don't tell me.
Are we?
Yes, Mary, we are. I can't believe it. That I, Mary Hartman, am finally a member of a Nielsen family.
That'll get you to that. I never knew, and I think to myself,
Will you stop it, you silly thing?
what a wonderful world.
1, 2, 3.
Robert Louis Stevenson said that traveling hopefully is better than to arrive. There's only one arrival in life, and that's the end of life. You don't arrive until the conclusion. I would hope to travel hopefully for a long time towards that conclusion.
Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Top that clip reel and what you've seen by saying anything more than please welcome the legendary Norman Lear. Well, I looked at those fantastic episodes you chose. Is anyone surprised by the episodes that Norman chose? Yes. Yes, do you remember them? Yes. Yes? Well, I'm going to let the audience ask you questions about why you chose those episodes, because I think the audience is going to want to talk to you and hear less from me. But I do have some questions to get us going. First of all, geez, Norman, you are so good. I mean, there's just nothing like that, what your shows on TV anymore. In fact, for me, you make The Big Bang Theory look like Pablum. And that's one of the biggest shows on TV right now. So, I just want to say something about the last episode we saw. That was a big bang. The Archie Bunker swastika episode. And, you know, it didn't feel at all dated to me. I mean, he mentioned communism, which he didn't know what it was, Archie, the way people talk about socialism today, and they don't know what it is. Today, someone using a swastika on TV might be doing it for shock value or some kind of sick joke, but you somehow managed to use it as both a comic prop and a dramatic plot element. So how did you come up with this one, and what was the response?
You know, this is one of 22 or 24, depending on the year, every year for 9 years. So it's hard to remember how any one episode originated. But I guess because we were people who, that is, I'm talking about the writers, men and women who were family people, we talked about paying a lot of attention to what our kids were going through, our wives and husbands were going through, paying a lot of attention to the economy and the culture and so forth. And writing out of that, I used to use the expression, scraping the barrels of our own experience. And it fell naturally to deal with serious subjects. So I would be sure that when the JDL, Jewish Defense League show came up, we had read something. Well, I actually, let me tell you, oh God, I know where it came up. The Nazis, I see a lot of gray hair here, so a lot of you will remember when the Nazis marched in Skokie, Illinois. And they sought permission to march, and they got permission to march. And there was a big brouhaha about that. And I supported the Nazis' right to march in Skokie. That's my America. You have a right, however inappropriate it may be, or I feel it may be. And the Jewish Defense League, and up the street from me lived John Gregory Dunn and his wife, the great writer, what's her name? Somebody remembers her name. John Burley Dunn and Sammy? And Joe Didion. And they used to take an early morning walk, and they woke me up one morning and said that there was a terrible thing written on my, it was a wooden gate, and on the gate was written, Nazi lover, Jew hater, Nazi lover. And what they didn't know was on the other side of the gate was a dead pig. And what we learned later, because he was proud about it, was Rabbi Meyer Kahane, who led the Jewish Defense League, was the one who threw the pig over the wall and called me a Jew hater and a Nazi lover. And that's what hatred will bring. And I was as motivated by hatred coming from Jews as I was coming from the, people. As I was at 9 years old when I ran into Father Coughlin and learned there were people who hated me because I was Jewish. We're not getting funny yet, are we?
We're going to get even less funny. Do you think you have enough light? I'd like the audience to get a sense of your book. I mean, you're a master writer. This is not just a memoir by a celebrity. And I thought you might read the opening of the book to the next page. It really grabs you.
The light isn't great, so forgive me if I'm not looking up enough, but...
You can have a flashlight if you want it.
Yeah. Thank you. When I was a boy, I thought that if I could turn a screw in my father's head, just a 16th of an inch one way or the other, it might help him tell the difference between right and wrong. I couldn't, of course, and ultimately he and I had to pay a serious price for his confusion. In late June of 1931, just out of 3rd grade, and a month away from turning 9, I was eagerly looking forward to my first experience at summer camp. A roll of cloth tape imprinted with Norman M. Lear, Norman M. Lear, Norman M. Lear, sat on the kitchen counter waiting for my mother to cut it up and sew my name into the clothes I'd be taking with me in a few weeks. Meanwhile, my father was about to take a plane to Tulsa, Oklahoma. None of my friends in Chelsea, Massachusetts knew anybody who had ever flown anywhere. It had only been 4 years since Charles Lindbergh flew 33.5 hours in his single-engine Spirit of St. Louis to get from New York to Paris. And the rare plane that was spotted in the sky had us kids chasing around in the street yelling, "Lindy, Lindy." So Dad flying to Oklahoma was a big deal. He was traveling on some kind of business. Monkey business, said my mother, who sensed that the men he'd fallen in with were not to be trusted. And for my upcoming birthday, he was going to bring me back a 10-gallon hat, like the one worn by my favorite film cowboy, Ken Maynard. "Herman, I don't like this," she told him. "I don't want you to see those men." But Herman, as always, knew better. "Jeanette," he screamed, the veins in his neck bulging as he stood over her, with his nose all but pressing hers. "Stifle!" And on he went. Herman Lear, or as he preferred to be known, HK, the K standing for King, a name he insisted he'd been given and would never admit to having appropriated, was a man of supreme optimism, a predecessor to Arthur Miller's salesman, Willie Loman. HK went out into the jungle each day with a shoe shine and a smile, pledging to come home his fortune made in 10 days to 2 weeks, tops. And this, whatever he was doing in Oklahoma, was merely the latest scheme that would soon result in our being millionaires. He was arrested upon his return on July 3rd for receiving and trying to sell some phony bonds for the Boston brokerage house E.A. Pearson Company. High on my list of vivid childhood memories is a photograph of my father on the front page of the next day's newspaper, coming down the steps of the courthouse with one hand holding his hat over his face and the other manacled to a detective. 5 weeks later, he was convicted and sentenced to 3 years in Deer Island Prison off Boston Harbor.